Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 827 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada! Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Thursday, January 8th. We already got the first week of 2026 done and over with. Check. It's been quite a week. And it looks like it's going to be another gray sky winter day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, he, Mr. Beaver, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly, but he is definitely here in spirit because he did set us up very well today to be able to do a show. Kids and Cubs, DamFam, we have our very own restream now. A little more about that a little later. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and Cubs, how is your mental health today? I have to say that I am doing much better. Yesterday was a bit of a harrowing day. Not that terrible things were happening, just that, with what happened yesterday, our show cutting out in the middle, there were some things that we had to do, and they were not things that I had obviously planned to do yesterday. So my planned day for yesterday got pretty much out the window, and I had to tend to other things. It would seem that what happened yesterday is that the Restream membership from our former network, which we were allowed to use as part of our agreement when the network folded, ran out mid-show. so yesterday we did the second part of the show. We MacGyvered it using our opening and closing sequences from a previous show, and then just using the share screen in order to have them play. And over the course of the day, we got our own account with Restream. So we're taking on the additional cost. The bill was a little pricier than I thought, because the price that was given to us, even though we were saying that we were in the Canada zone, the price was still being quoted in US dollars, but we only found that out once the bill came. So what we thought was going to be $470 was really closer to $700, which is a big unexpected cost, I guess. I can't say it's unexpected. It was expected that we would have to do something. We were in negotiations at one point to move over to another network where that could have been taken care of as well. But unfortunately, things never actually materialized, and therefore we found ourselves in a rather independent status, but we had that element left from our former network, and now that's over. So now we are literally 100% back to full independence as a podcast. So no more association with the Crier Network, no association with any networks at the moment. Not that we don't want one at some point if we could, but at the moment, this is where we're at. We are flying solo. Uh, and then an interesting thing happened because I was talking to Mr. Grizzly yesterday, and I happened to catch him during his lunch break, which was a little earlier than our lunch because he starts his day way earlier, and asked him if he would be able, if I purchased the restream thing, if we were if I was able to do that, would he be able to load the opening and closing graphics and all that kind of stuff before we did the show today? And he said, no problem. But of course, Mr. Grizzly, because he starts early, goes to bed early. And so around 3:30 in the afternoon or something, I finally had time to get around to making the purchase and, sending Mr. Grizzly the information. And I couldn't find my wallet for the life of me. And it wasn't that it was lost. I knew that because when I did the show in the morning, it was in my pants pocket. And for some reason, and I hadn't left the house yet. So I just couldn't figure out where it was. And I searched for it up and down and all around for about 2 hours until I just literally retraced all my steps from the moment I woke up in the morning. And when I woke up that morning, one of the first things I did is I came out of the bedroom and I went and I sat on the couch as I, warmed up a cup of tea and, just made sure that I was entering the data that was needed to set up the Restream link for our YouTube broadcast and our broadcast everywhere else to seed the program. And so I'm looking all around the sofa because, I mean, it's the only place I hadn't looked yet, and it's not on the sofa, and it's not under the cushions, and it didn't fall through the side. And then I get on the floor. It turns out that somehow during the morning when I was sitting there, the wallet fell out of my pocket, fell onto the ground, and at some point during the day got kicked under the sofa. I never, ever, ever would have thought of looking earlier. So yeah, I was like, oh, I looked everywhere else. So I just got on my knees and looked down, and sure enough, there it was. Just literally just jumped out of my pocket. Don't even know how it happened because sometimes you have like pants that have very pockets that are shallow. The pants I was wearing yesterday were like yoga pants with really, really deep pockets. So there's absolutely no way it should have, but it found a way. So there, but I was able to get it all done and sent everything to Mr. Grizzly, and he was able to do everything. And then after we made the purchase, about 10 minutes later, got a lovely call from the fraud department from my credit card company, asking me if I had approved these transactions, and it gave me the list of the 5 most recent transactions, and the last two were mine, but the first three I did not recognize at all, and the first three all came from Restream. So basically, there were 4 attempts from Restream or 4 transactions from Restream on our credit card on a very, 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 very short amount of time, and that led the fraud department, as it should, to block my credit card and block the transactions. So then we were talking to Restream like, "Hey, what's up?" And turns out that they charged a $1 to see if the card was active before approving, and then removed it. And then there was the fee for the restreaming service for a year, but there was also a fee, um, an extra sort of a $20 fee for if you wanted to buy the service that would auto generate clips for you. And well, fortunately, we are blessed with the good work from Kit Uncover, who has taken it upon themselves to generate clips for us, which we are using. I was able to load a few up yesterday on our YouTube page. Thank you so much for that. So we didn't need that. And we didn't select that. And it seems that at first, someone, I guess, who was processing our order had understood that we had done that and tried to bill it. And then apparently they themselves withdrew the charge. But given that there was so much activity in so little amount of time, we got the call. So Then we resolved that with Restream, and then we had to call the credit card company back again, say, please unblock our card because we really, really need that. It was a day, and when all of that was finally taken care of, so something that was I thought would have taken about 30 minutes ended up taking 5 hours, beginning to end. I thought, okay, now we get to start working on preparing today's show, and that is the precise moment at which my Beaver sweetie came home from work. It's like thwarted all day long, thwarted. But we have the Restream, and while it is indeed an expense, it does, however, offer us other opportunities because when we had started this, we didn't think we were going to be picked up by a network in the space of 11 months and go national. That was not in the plan. We had never ever hoped that that would happen, and and it did. It changed things for us, and some of the paths that we were considering going down is, for example, staying with a network and growing within one, or one day forming our own network. The fact that we are completely independent and the fact that we do own our own restream does create the opportunity, in one way, to become our own network. So, for example, Kit Hugh, who you know and love, is doing his own things, and he says that he needs to do a couple of new things, some new content coming up, given everything that's happened in Venezuela. So we are going to reach out to him and ask him if he would like essentially to join us for all intents and purposes, because we have a restream, and therefore he could use our software in order to produce his shows and increase the quality and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, uh, we might becoming our own network ish, sort of. Um, it could be. It could be. I'm just saying it could be. We know that there are other people that have expressed some interest in doing some podcasting, and well, now we have the means to support people the way that we were supported when we joined the choir. So that is kind of interesting because that originally was the plan when we started as independent, and we thought that that was going to be the case. We would build relationships with people over time, having them as guests and then asking them, well, hey, since you want, have you ever thought of doing something? And if you would, we could offer you some support and helping you with that. And so yeah, very who knows who knows what the future holds? But now, because technically we control our means of production ooh, fully, we do have the option of sharing it. So who knows? That might be um, something that's in our future. And like I said, it could be other paths either. We are very much open to suggestion. Of course, if we do become our own network, that means yet more additional work for for so and so, and I'm still not sure whether or not I'm going to have the capability, time wise and whatnot, to take on the work that we do now. But hey, you never know if you don't give it a go, right? You never know until you give it a go, as the saying goes in the movie Adventures Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. So we'll see. We are going to be the river. We're just going to see where life takes us. And, when there are obstacles, can we direct our stream around these obstacles with least amount of resistance, and see where it takes us. Like I said, it's 2026. It's a bright new year for new adventures, and we are definitely on one, kids and cubs. It's it's kind of weird in a way to have come full circle. Having started independent and then joining a network, and joining the network was great in that we made some instant friends. Mr. Otter, Ryan, Kit Ray. who I'm still in communication with, even though they're off doing other things now. But them two are friends for life. There was a good friendship with James before he decided to walk away. But that was always fun. A little headbutting now and there because we have different perspectives on the world. But there's some deep affection there, and then again the people that we've been able to introduce you to, like High Tide Hilda and Kit Hugh, and all of that, and then people that we've met along the way from other shows, right? That nerd dad who has stopped doing some shows for a while, but or maybe permanently, I don't know. But we had a good relationship with him, and then Cranky, and then the Lady Laura, Dave Gray, Mr. Mr. Wolf out in British Columbia. It's we've just met some most wonderful, delightful people. Olga from the Honest News Network, Olga Nestorova, and Bill Kelly from the Bill Kelly podcast. Just beautiful, beautiful people. And well, now we will have the opportunity to collaborate with them. JB, also from Canadian Poly 101. Uh, we just, like I said, the most wonderful people. We are very, very blessed and fortunate on our path, despite all the speed bumps. Our path was not the normal path for what the type of thing that we do, and we have been rather fortunate. And most fortunate of all are we, DamFam, for you, of course, because a lot of you have been with us since very early on, and a lot of you have found us since. But the amount of love and support that we have received from you over the course of this journey has been fueling, I have to say. And on days where things have been a little tougher, the times that, a little more negative thoughts have run through my head about whether or not this is a venture that I should stick with and continue, and do we keep on trying to make this happen? Um, you know, I'm human like everybody else. I'll have a dip now and then, but it always comes back to, at the end of the day, um, our wonderful relationship with the audience. Yes, the fact that additional media literacy and political literacy, that type of stuff, is needed because there seems to be a dearth of it out in our mainstream media, and people are very hungry for this type of information and content. Uh, the mission itself is fueling in and of itself, but what really seals the deal and gives the motivation to keep this going is the relationship with the audience. You are wonderful and delightful and so giving, and especially we've had moments, right? When I was in the hospital very briefly, and had no idea what was going on and felt like my whole body was shutting down. Um, the love, just the pure outpouring of love that I got from the Damn Fam, and take time for care and all that kind of stuff. Basically giving me my advice back to me. Um, that kind of stuff really does mean the world. When we did the show the next day, and I was rather emotional because never did I expect um, that this type of venture would not only lead to professional endeavor support, if you want to consider this a professional endeavor, but actual personal support when things just in my life were a little bumpier, and and we've seen that again and again from the Damn Fam. There was, like I said, when I was in the hospital, and then the year previous when my Beaver sweetie got in a car accident and things got kind of bad here for a while because we were dealing with some PTSD as well. And you were there. You were there through the tech glitches. You were there through when I have a theater performance and my schedule gets thrown off a little bit. You are there through the bouts of insomnia. You are there, you know, through Mr. Grizzly, his entire period when he was seeking work. You were there. Some even very kindly made personal donations during that period that was very rough. And not donations to the show, but actual personal donations. And again, so incredibly grateful for your love and your support and your care and the manner in which you carry us. So, kids and cubs, a bit of a long bit to say thank you. I want you to know that we see you and that we appreciate you. We are grateful for absolutely everything, everything you do for us, even just your presence, absolutely everything. Because without your presence, we're just like two dudes, yapping into a microphone and a camera, right? It's the relationship and the feedback that we get from you that makes this an actual thing, that builds this community, and that you've bought in to my proposal of a community mutual support and not first assuming the worst of each other, and seeking to understand before seeking to be understood, and all of that good stuff. That you're here for that, and that you've bought in to the vision I've proposed, basically my dream, and that you're supporting it, and many of you have even taken it and made it a bit of your own. In a way, you decided to share in our dream and take it upon yourselves to do things to help it come true, and that too is something that we never ever ever could have expected. It wasn't in the plan. We did not plan for that. You just gave that of your own free will, and we are at times overwhelmed by all the goodness that comes from you. And don't worry, that's a good type of being overwhelmed. We don't want that to stop. But yes, um, yeah, I think I can very safely speak for Mr. Grizzly, even though I don't like to speak for others, but I think I can in this case. You all mean the absolute world to us. We love you so much, and we are grateful that you found us. We are grateful that you are here. We are grateful for you, and it's a like I said, the beginning of a brand new year, a brand new adventure, and it's easier to take on these adventures when you know that you have an entire solid platform under you that is way higher than the one you started from which you can leap off of, and that no matter what happens, after you leap, you will never land lower than where you are now, and where you are now is higher than you were, much higher than you were when you started. So that's all because of you. And therefore, you have my undying gratitude and commitment to keep on trying to produce the best quality show that we have, and to bring you best quality guests, and maybe even be an incubator for also other good quality shows and sources of information that we might be able to bring you. So, if you're willing, DamFam, please climb, please come aboard Beaver Airlines flight 2026 to, we don't know yet, the future. And the exits are there and there, but hopefully you won't be needing them. And now we are going to have way more than just light refreshments. And please, you do have reclining room and leg room on our flight because we don't like to cram you in. All right, now I'm just being silly. All right. I love that. Kid, this, yes, group hug. Come on, bring it all in. Bring it all in. Let's go. Give me the good stuff. Oh, just a little squeeze there. Yes. There we go. Kid Sassy. Oh, I'm feeling warm and fuzzy. And the damn fam is the best fam. It really is. It really is. Like I said, you guys are a gift. You're just a gift. Kit Linda M. It's a very worthwhile vision, and you and Mr. Grizzly are genuine, authentic, sincere people. That's why we came, and that's why we stay. And so long as you stay, your queen will slay. Oh, I am going to read. I'm going to love reading these comments at the end of the show because I can't get to them all right now. But Kid Bucky, I'm so happy to hear that the family vibes that we generate here can help you through some tough times. The show is a great meeting place for inquisitive and compassionate people. Mm, those are my kind of people. Those are my kind of people. Ah, wow. There we go. And of course, Kit Elaine, that's what family is for, dear Queen. Indeed. And again, as you know, as someone who didn't grow up with much family, um, this is the last place that I expected to find it, right? And yet here you are. So uh, you all have a seat at my table. That's all I will say. You all have a seat at my table. All right, let's get into the meat of the matter today and talk about a little politics, shall we? Um, an impressively slow news day here in Canada, of course, in the United States. There are the events in Minnesota, which we will not go into all that much. Again, not our circus, not our monkeys in that sense. You know, covering everything that happens in Trump world breathlessly. There are plenty of other podcasts to do that. We do tap into that, but there are plenty of other podcasts to do that. But yeah, um, just some. It's we're seeing a perfect example of something that has been a feature, not a bug, of the Trump administration. And that is the concept of just say it is, and we'll take care of the rest. Right? You remember when he claimed the election was stolen, and he was calling everybody and says, "Just say it was stolen. Just say it was stolen. Leave the rest to me." And then when he was trying to pressure Ukraine into making some claims that Joe Biden had done something rather illegal, just say it. Just say it is, and we'll run with it from there. Right? And we yesterday we saw that, and then we've been seeing that over and over again in rapid succession, right? When there was the alleged assassination attempt on the president in Pennsylvania. Just say it was like this. Just say it was a Democrat. Just say it was, and we'll take care of the rest. Charlie Kirk. Just say it was a Democrat. Just say it was trans people, and we'll take care of the rest. And now it's for Minnesota. Just say the person in the car was trying to use their car as a weapon to run down ICE agents, and we'll take care of the rest. Um, the calm with which Christy Nome was in front of that microphone making the claim, even though uh, people all over the internet and all over the news and wherever were looking at the that scene um, over and over and over again, frame by frame. Did this really happen the way it's um, just walking up to a mic? This is and we need to do this, and we need to pass some laws, additional laws against this type of terrorism, and this is not going to. And she has that Daniel Smith quality. Daniel Smith is much more polished in terms of being a media personality, but that walk up to a mic and just say things that are patently and incredibly untrue, and some of them extremely inflammatory, but say it in a voice that makes it look like you're just sharing a chocolate chip muffin recipe with your neighbor. Um, Someone died. So that type of attitude to me is extremely frightening and strikes me as a rather sociopathic. you have the video and everything, and you're still sitting there in front of a mic and just calmly and confidently stating, "Yeah, this is the situation. It's so terrible. We need to we need to do things to stop these terrible situations that I'm claiming are happening, but are not from happening." Right? Uh, Chicago's an infested crime den. Ah, there was some data that was recently released in terms of which are the most um, the cities that have the most violent crime, and of course, that depends how you define city, right? Um, and if you are not looking at only big metropolitan areas but smaller cities, uh, these studies and evaluations of crime statistics, so I mean nobody's fudging the numbers here, always reveal that they are small towns, not smaller towns but smaller cities, often in uh, Republican states, that are the issue. You know, uh, you might, um, for as violent as people believe Chicago to be, uh, the homicide rates are actually rather down over the course of the last year. And there are just smaller places, right, in which you are twice as likely to be murdered than in Chicago. Um, so, yeah, but again, uh, you just say it and you let people run with it. It's according to WBEZ Chicago, and this is updated January 2nd. Chicago records fewest killings since 1965, despite Trump's campaign against the city. It's a 60-year low as overall crime continues to drop. The number of murders in Chicago decreased from 587 in 2024 to 416 last year, nearly a 30% drop, according to Chicago police data. It's the lowest total since 1965 and the first time in a decade that a city has had fewer than 500 slayings in a year. That had nothing to do with Trump sending in the National Guard. The decline in overall crime was also seen in other U.S. cities with murder rates similar to Chicago's, including Baltimore, Detroit, and Philadelphia, according to a University of Chicago crime lab report. But just say it's a hellhole. Trump administration, of course, is taking credit for the drop. It had nothing to do with it, as we're seeing with Minnesota. Trump interventions actually now lead to people dying. And of course, being so close to January 6th, you have a whole bunch of people in the United States going, well, why didn't she just comply? In the same breath as they're saying, talking about Ashley Babbitt. Why didn't she just comply? Uh, doesn't apply to her, but applies to that person in Minnesota who got shot because an ICE agent, as the car was driving away, decided to recklessly and or for whatever reason, fire a shot, and it ended up killing the driver. Uh, so yeah, now you can actually say they are killing people. Or if you want to be fair, because we don't have all the details yet, um, rather than saying that they're killing people, uh, people are dying as a result of their actions. It's we knew that this was a matter only of when and not if. I mean, there is only so many guns that you can bring into these types of situations, and there's only so much demonization of people that you can do before at one point one of these guns goes off and takes a life. According to an article here that I have on ABC News, um, basically people are saying that crime levels appear to be back to normal after a pandemic surge. According to preliminary crime statistics of the police departments of these cities, the following cities mentioned, um, homicides have decreased 31% in Washington, D.C., another place where Trump deployed the National Guard, 30% in Chicago, 21% in New York City, 20% in San Francisco, 16% in Philadelphia, and 16% in New Orleans. The number of homicides nationwide is expected to be the lowest since the FBI began keeping such records in 1960. That's according to Jeff Asher, a national crime analyst. And yet, if you hear Trump tell the tale, violent crime and murderous rampages are happening everywhere. In places everywhere and at a rate so astronomical that National Guard is needed to be deployed against the wishes of state governors. You've got places like, this is a quote, you've got places like Detroit, Philadelphia, and Baltimore that are on track to have the fewest murders since the 1960s. New Orleans, in spite of the terrorist attack on January 1st, is on pace to have the fewest murders since 1970, Asher said. San Francisco is on track to see the fewest number of murders since 1940. Preliminary data the FBI made public earlier this year showed that homicides across the country fell 18% between September 2024 and August 2025. So I guess earlier last year, I should say. The FBI data also showed an overall 9% decline in violent crime during the same period and a 12% reduction in property crime. According to the Real-Time Crime Index, nationwide crime stats, homicides are down 20% nationwide, aggravated assault is down 8% nationwide, motor vehicle theft is down 23% nationwide. But that's not the narrative that we're getting from the elected officials. And in some positive news, according to the Gun Violence Archive, mass shootings nationwide are also down 22%. According to the Gun Violence Archive, a website that tracks shootings across the country, this year is poised to end with mass shootings down 22% from the 503 committed in 2024. The website defines a mass shooting as at least 4 victims shot, either injured or killed, not including the shooter. Among the nearly 400 mass shootings across the country in 2025, 2 of the most devastating occurred at churches. So yeah. I'm not sure. And the same thing is happening in Canada, right? I don't have the crime statistics for Canada, but we have one political faction banging that drum over and over and over again that there's rampant violent crime, rampant violent crime, rampant violent crime. I know that there's been lots of crimes of desperation, addiction, needing to feed the habit. So some petty crime there, finding yourself homeless, and things that people need to do to survive. We do have a loneliness epidemic. I was reading some articles that over the course of the New Year break that people are spending less and less and less and less time with friends. Right? You used to spend time with friends X number of days a week, and now it's like there's some people that may not even see somebody in person, someone they consider to be a friend within a week. So there is a loneliness epidemic. This is from the CBC on December 30th from Catherine Zhu. Every Wednesday, members of the Toronto Dingoes send a life update to their group chat. Quote, you just take 30 seconds to a minute out of your day and share with everyone what's going on in your life. Mike Boshin, captain of the mixed-age Aussie Rules Amateur Football Club, told Now or Never. Justin Robertson, the club's president and coach, says the tradition began after a devastating loss that rocked them. Nothing appeared amiss in 2018 when one of the footballers who had returned for a second stint with the team attended their first practice on Thursday. By Monday, the club had learned he had taken his own life. Out of that tragedy grew the Dingo's weekly video check-in known as the Wednesday Waffle, Australian slang for banter, so that something like that doesn't ever happen again, said Robertson. And that was one of our impetus for the mental health walk, right? It came from the Spoke for a Bloke initiative in Australia, which was the same thing, was a group of people that had a friend, a man, who didn't obviously talk to his friends, talk to his bros, talk to his mates, talk to his blokes about what was going on in their life, and then suddenly just took his life. This is not a new situation, right? The ritual underscores how regular, meaningful connection can help combat isolation at a time when many Canadians struggle to maintain friendships, says Parveer Brar, a registered clinical counselor in BC. Sustaining close relationships requires consistency and intention, particularly as busy schedules and competing demands pull people in different directions, she says. Whether a biweekly phone call or a monthly meetup, planned time together can help friendships endure. Canadians have been, quote, spending less and less time with friends, according to a Statistics Canada study conducted from 1986 to 2022. In 1986, 47.9% of Canadians saw friends on an average day. By 22, that figure had fallen to just 19.3%. In the space of 36 years, about 47.9% of us saw friends on an average day. Now it's just 19.3. We're losing connection. Bochin has noticed the same trend in his own life. Since turning 40, he's seen his friendships fade. Quote, after being out of university and just focusing on my career, some of those relationships that you have just really start to dwindle, he said. You start focusing more and more on your life and your family and the needs of those people within that small group. A major reason for this, says Brar, is due to how busy everyone is. The Stats Can report found that in 2022, Canadians felt the most pressed for time since the early 1990s when data collection on the topic began. The research suggests the COVID-19 pandemic triggered longer-term social shifts, or societal shifts, I should say. People in the past had a little more time to be spontaneous, said Brar. Now it's like, let me call them ahead of time, plan this week ahead of time, and make sure it works with their schedules. As well, the report revealed that in 2022, Canadians were quite more likely to worry about not spending enough time with family or friends than in 1992. Kimberly Brownlee, the Canada Research Chair in Ethics and Political and Social Philosophy at the University of British Columbia, says the way people form friendships in modern culture have watered down our understanding of what it means to be a friend. Quote, when Facebook was the big social media platform, friending someone was something you could do, she said, but that little click isn't how you become a friend. Friendship takes time, effort, commitment, vulnerability, compassion. Brar says this shift has changed how people view meaningful interaction. Quote, people can look at their list of followers and there could be like hundreds to thousands, but in terms of a real connection, of a true friendship, they may not be able to identify a single one, she said. We're having these connections, but they're not deep connections. Friendships, says Brar, are a valuable type of relationship as they provide unique emotional support. Quote, they can offer you a new perspective, a new way of thinking, a new way of dealing with the problem that you may be having. In defining what a healthy friendship is, Brar says it's being with someone who you can be your authentic self around. A healthy friendship, she explains, is a two-way relationship. Both friends provide support, celebrate each other's successes, and are there during tough times. You feel heard, validated, and accepted without needing to put on a facade. They accept you for who you are. Brownlee adds that people with the strongest levels of well-being tend to have a diverse social profile. While they may have a few close long-term connections, such as a romantic partner or one or two close friends, they also interact with a broader circle of friendly neighbors, acquaintances, colleagues, and even casual contacts they greet on the street. Quote, there's also varieties in the identities of people with whom they have contact, so across generations and cultures, she says. Brar suggests one way to build new friendships is by joining groups or attending regular activities, such as fitness class, at the same time each week. But again, all of us are so busy. You got to make time for that. Repeatedly seeking familiar faces opens the door to small casual conversations, asking if someone has taken the class before or how their day is going. Then over time, these brief interactions can grow into deeper connections, Brar says, like grabbing a coffee or a smoothie together, and sometimes even develop into lasting friendships. For Dingo's president and coach Justin Robertson, having a set structure has made a difference as it provides a clear way to stay connected. Quote, what started as, this is my work week, these are my hobbies, led to, over the weeks that rolled on, guys opening up about job loss and stresses, he said. The longer it went, the more comfortable we felt with each other. Friendships don't form automatically, says Brownlee. Even small connection requires effort, followed by ongoing investment. Quote, it takes a willingness to bid for someone's attention, to be interested in learning about them, she said. And the article ends with some PSA information. If you or someone you know is struggling, here's where to look for help. There's Canada's Suicide Crisis Helpline, or you can call or text 988. There's the Kids Help Phone, 1-800-668-6868, or you can text 686868. And there's live chat counseling on their website. There's also the Canadian Association for Suicide Prevention, and it'll help you find a 24-hour crisis center. And there's a guide from the Center for Addiction and Mental Health that outlines how to talk about suicide with someone you're worried about. So these are some resources that you can access. And here, fortunately with us, Kids and Cubs, we also have the DamFam, our chat here, and we also have the DamFam Discord, right? Connection is really important. And again, going back to what I said when I was opening the show, this particular group, I see it in the chat. You celebrate each other's successes. You offer yourself encouragement, understanding. You listen to each other when some of you is having a bad day or a big health challenge. You're there. You ask for updates. You check in with each other. That matters. That could change. That can change someone's entire day. Right, from a bad day to a good day. Right? I have a saying that we leave fingerprints on every life we touch. So we need to make sure that our touch is a good touch. Right? That's why I say be kind to and gentle with yourself, because if not you, who? But also because that then predisposes you to be kind and gentle with others. So, friendship, connection, especially in this world where it's very easy to go down a rabbit hole or easy to distract yourself from troubles and worries just by going into your phone. And this is ironic because, we're doing podcasts and we do everything through screens and all this kind of stuff. But, less screen time and more actual connection, coffees with friends, knitting circles. You don't need a reason. Manufacture a pretext for getting together and spending some time together. Over the course of the weekend, I have to go to the Ottawa Beaver Lodge, which I will be broadcasting from tomorrow, to go for a dentist appointment, and called an old friend from high school, Katharina, Canada's fiercest librarian. And we're going out to dinner. And but you have to make the time, because it is very easy after a long day work. We're all working very hard, extra hours, a lot of us long commutes, coming home. We may have kids at home. We may have kids and parents at home at the same time. There's a lot to do, and the world is very demanding. But that time for self-care, that includes, not only exercise and, making sure that, you have some time to prepare some good healthy meals, put some good fuel in your body, getting good sleep, but also time for friends and that emotional connection, right? Building and maintaining that garden, that network that's there. You know, often when people are going through a tough time, one of my first questions is, how's your support network? Do you have one? Because some don't. Right? So, checking in with people sincerely, asking them how they are, and really wanting to know. These things matter. These things matter. All right, kits and cubs. Um, More political news. We kind of entered this one a little interesting, differently. I didn't expect to go there with the show today, but as I was talking about it, that article popped into my mind, so I figured I would bring it up. And just on that front, Kids and Cubs, we are hoping that this year our mental health walk initiatives will be a little more um, vibrant than they were last year, because unfortunately I broke my foot and couldn't walk. So so hopefully we'll be able to do a little more this year, but we do intend to have that again this year. So and once again, we will be relying on your support to help spread the word about that. Okay, moving in to yes, thank you, Kit Deborah. Interview with a candidate for the Quebec Liberal Party leadership that came in second last time. That is indeed something that we wanted to talk about today on the show very briefly. So maybe I can do that. I can't seem to access it by clicking on the link here in Restream. So I might have to go into the chat on the YouTube page in order to find that, because there I believe the links are clickable. But we're talking about actual comings, almost comings and actual goings today. Well, that would definitely be something. And of course, it seems that you are chatting with us not through YouTube, but another source where our feed, so probably Facebook. So I am going to go look at that right now. We're talking about comings and goings because over the past little while, of course, we've had some stories about people leaving the Conservative Party of Canada, and also some stories about some alleged luring or courting of members trying to get people to cross the floor, and another one, Pablo Rodriguez having left the leadership of the Quebec Liberal Party, John Rustad having been booted out from the leadership of the BC Conservative Party. Uh, there's been lots of comings and goings. The most high profile one at the moment has to do with former cabinet minister, former deputy prime minister, and former minister of finance, Chrystia Freeland, who has announced that officially she will be stepping down on Friday. It would seem that despite the fact, and this is a part of the story that we had not yet reported on our show, but despite having cleared absolutely everything with the ethics commissioner about the new position that she is going to be taking on as the economic development advisor for Ukraine, voluntary unpaid position. Not that that matters in this particular case, but it needs to be stated. Um, that she did all the things that one would be expected to do. But despite that, there was still an issue of optics, and there was, of course, political opportunism, in that the Conservatives saw this as an opportunity to try to create some ethical issue that they hope would stick to the Liberals, because whatever they have been trying to do since Mark Carney has come along, all of it has essentially failed, and in rather spectacular fashion. And this is an optics issue that they could indeed run with and milk. And then there was a lot of collaboration. I don't know if it was intentional or if it was just coincidental, with the NDP, who decided to seize upon this issue as well. Um, I personally believe that there's huge tins of misogyny involved here. Again, as we know, Chrystia Freeland, um, uh, misogynistic attacks online against women politicians have very much taken a sharp increase, and Chrystia Freeland was receiving the overall overwhelming majority of that, and for a good while. Um, and she has been a target upon which particularly conservatives, a little less the NDP, but particularly the conservatives, have liked to gleefully pile onto and criticize and mock for various reasons. But according to Catherine Tunney, former Liberal cabinet minister Chrystia Freeland says she'll step down as a member of parliament Friday, marking the end of an era for the party. The high-profile MP accepted on Monday what's being described as a voluntary role advising Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and indicated she would be leaving Canadian politics in the, quote, coming weeks. Quote, I have written to the speaker to confirm that I will vacate my seat effective this Friday, she wrote on social media just 2 days later. Quote, going forward, I will continue to support and help build Canada in every way I can while championing the brave fight of the people in Ukraine, a cause I have been committed to my entire life. Freeland, who has Ukrainian ancestry, was deputy prime minister between 2019 and 2024 and the country's first woman to serve as finance minister. She has long been one of Canada's most vocal opponents of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The one-time Liberal leader hopeful has represented the downtown Toronto seat of University Rosedale since 2015. It was carved out of a riding she first won in 2013. The Conservatives have been urging, that is not the verb I would use here, Freeland to resign immediately. Quote, it is deeply concerning that Chrystia Freeland has accepted a job advising a foreign government to act in their interest while continuing to sit as a member of Canadian Parliament collecting an MP salary, wrote the party's ethics critic Michael Barrett on social media Tuesday. Beyond the fact that serving Canadians is not a part-time job, the position she has accepted with a foreign government, paid or unpaid, raises the questions of whose interests will be prioritized. And then again, kids and cubs, we then point you to, of course, Damien Couric and Matt Genereux, who also were doing their MP jobs not full-time and receiving that salary, and with questions of whose interests were being prioritized because Damien Couric was holding that seat while he was campaigning specifically for Pierre Poilievre in Battle River Crowfoot, which is not the job of serving his constituents and is not the job he was elected to do, and definitely was not putting the interests of all Canadians in priority, but rather the interests of Pierre Poilievre. Matt Genereux also deciding that even though he is not showing up for work whatsoever, he might be doing some constituency work back home, who knows, but not showing up for work in Parliament as a legislator, which is his job. And we are paying salary and benefits, and him choosing the date that he will step down sometime in the spring after the Conservative convention, the leadership convention, is definitely putting the interests, raises questions of whose interests are being prioritized, that of Canadians in the constituents or that of Pierre Poilievre. Um, yes, they haven't accepted jobs advising a foreign government, but they are people who continue to sit as members of Canadian Parliament collecting an MP salary for doing the work part-time or no time at all and putting the interests of someone else other than the people who elected them first. So it's not exactly like conservatives have a problem with this behavior, and especially if we look back to the behavior of their leader, Pierre Poilievre, who spent a good amount of time running for prime minister, which you can't do in this country, but all the time he spent running for the leadership of his party, and then once he got the leadership of his party, he stopped doing his work as an MP and started running for prime minister full time, which didn't impress his constituents who gave him the boot. Or Jason Kenney, who seems to be really itching and champing at the bit to maybe push Pierre Poilievre out the door and maybe try his bid at attempting to become the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. The entire time he spent trying to unite the right in Alberta and then running for the leadership of the UCP, he kept his MP's seat in Ottawa for that whole time. But Conservatives didn't have a problem with that, but now they do. Now, the advising a foreign government portion, the fact that she was chosen to do that, adds a different spin. But other than that, like, the variables are different, but all the constants are exactly the same. So we have this incredible piece of constant piece theta from the Conservatives. Oh my God, isn't it terrible that she's getting paid for doing no work and putting other people's priorities first? Uh-huh. Yeah. You people of all have a problem with that. We are supposed to buy and believe. The source here is not credible. Public office holders in Canada are barred from a number of activities under the Conflict of Interest Act, including engaging in outside employment and paid consulting. It does not include specific language about advising a foreign government. In her post Wednesday, Freeland said she consulted with the federal ethics commissioner and followed his advice. A source close to Freeland said the initial plan was for her to resign her seat and then take up the Zelensky advisor position, but the Ukrainians moved up the announcement. The source previously said Zelensky asked Freeland to take on the role during a visit to the country on December 22nd, as she approached Prime Minister Mark Carney about it on December 24th. Carney had previously appointed her as Canada's new special representative for the reconstruction of Ukraine, a role she said she is also giving up. Once official, her resignation will trigger a by-election for the Toronto seat considered a safe riding for the Liberals. Freeland has been a key face in the Liberal Party since former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau swept into power in 2015. She was largely seen as his lieutenant, playing a role in renegotiating the North American Trade Pact during U.S. President Donald Trump's first term and overseeing the country's finances during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. She abruptly resigned from Trudeau's cabinet in late 2024, ultimately setting the scene for his resignation. Freeland's office previously confirmed that she will soon be moving to the United Kingdom for a new job as CEO of the Rhodes Trust educational charity, which starts on July 1st. Uh, Again, the article is still not clear about whether or not uh, when Zelensky asked Freeland to take on the role during a visit to the country on December 22nd, what the start date for her being that economic advisor would be. But it seems that the plan was for her to resign the seat to go over to take the position at the Rhodes Trust, a position which, and this also presents an interesting contrast that she announced. So she was going to be working in another country for a very venerable institution that has a huge international reputation, and she had accepted the job and was announced, but nobody was asking her to resign then, right? So it really is. So it's not about having another job or having found another job or announced that you are going to be taking another job while you're still an MP, right? It really is the element of being an advisor for a foreign government, paid or unpaid, doesn't matter, right? But still, after all this time talking about this subject, we still don't know when it is she was supposed to start. Ukraine moved up the announcement, but did that move up the start date? Because clearly they were expecting her to start later originally. Right? There could be things having to do with all the negotiations and the talks that are happening among the coalition of the willing. And somebody pointed out that that's probably another term also that we should change because it has some connotations to what happened in Iraq. I believe they called that the coalition of the willing as well at the time. I've heard at some point the coalition of the chilling at some point, but I don't know if that had to do with Ukraine or had to do with stuff with regard to the Arctic. I would have to look that up again. But yeah, uh, terms like New World Order and coalition of the willing, while they are technically appropriate for situations that are going on right now, Donald Trump is indeed creating a new world order. But the connotations for that term have deeper roots that are not particularly conducive to not introducing noise into whatever message you are trying to give. And here as well, you know, coalition of the willing it evokes other times in other areas where decisions may not have been as wise as they could have been. Let's just put it that way. Oh boy. Carney had previously appointed her as Canada's new special representative for the reconstruction of Ukraine, a role she said she is also giving up. Once official, her resignation will trigger a by-election for the Toronto seat considered a safe riding, as we mentioned. And with that, the Prime Minister had made a comment about there being some by-elections coming soon, which of course prompted speculation, increased speculation about maybe some step-downs announcements from other Liberal MPs, some of whom have been telegraphed for quite a while. Nate Erskine-Smith being one, Jonathan Wilkinson being another, Bill Blair being another. It has been rumored or telegraphed for quite a while that Bill Blair will be taking over from Ralph Goodale as the High Commissioner to England, Mr. Wilkinson might be going to a position potentially at the EU or somewhere in Europe specifically. And that, what's the other name I mentioned at first? It escaped me. Anyway, that those two might be going there. There's Nate Erskine-Smith. There's some rumor that he might be interested in the leadership of the Ontario Liberal Party. There's no reason for him to necessarily jump ship now for that. If that's the case, again, same thing. For the other two, there's no particular need to do that now unless the transition it can be made then, because I'm sure that they had some scheduled dates for that if that was going to happen. There's also been some talk recently, this one a little less telegraphed, perhaps of Stephen Guilbeault leaving. There is a little bit of talk about him, a little bit of a tiny drumbeat of a draft Guilbeault for the Québec Liberal leadership, which because he is very respected in the province of Quebec. So there's a little bit of that there. Not sure how that will go down. And I believe that there may be like one or two more people that was sort of in the rumor mill that people have been out with regard to the Liberals. Let's see, who else might there be here? I'm just looking at some. No, those are the ones. Those are the major ones here. And of course, Matt Genereux, right? If Matt Genereux would decide that his resignation was taking effect immediately, that could be another one. So there were people reading into the fact that Prime Minister said by elections and thinking, okay, maybe he's going to take advantage of this moment, to move some of the people, at least the ones that would be going to other diplomatic positions at the same time and just holding those by elections at once. But there's also the narrative that, by elections can be called in 6 months after the seat is vacated. So, Chrystia Freeland could vacate the seat. The Prime Minister could call a by-election for a certain time, and Matt Genereux could either resign officially around a similar time or immediately, let's say. He said in the spring, but let's say he moves it up to soon after Pierre's leadership review. Nothing stops the Prime Minister then, if he sets the date for the by-election a little further ahead than just a short 36 days for Chrystia Freeland, he can make the one for Matt Genereux match at the same time. Of course, there's the reality for the Liberals that they probably won't want to wait that long, if possible, because the House is about to sit again, and they need the votes for the rest of the budget measures to pass through the House, and therefore it might be a good idea to have those by-elections sooner rather than later, particularly if they are in a safe seat. And of course, for the Prime Minister, those by-elections gives him an opportunity to perhaps have candidates that are a little more parachuted in, if that's what so he desires, so that he can bring in people in with whom he has more established trust, more people like Tim Hutchison or the gentleman that has just been named our ambassador to the United States. and to start building his own team because of the way he came in, with that quick departure from Trudeau and that very quick Liberal leadership race, and then immediately into an election. It's not like he had the time to form his own team. One of the reasons a lot of these incumbents and ministers and former cabinet ministers from the Trudeau era remained is so that the party could have the benefit of incumbency in the past election, uh, to ensure that they at least held power. And then Prime Minister Mark Carney would be able to form necessarily his own team. Usually that happens before, but the timing and the sequence of events made it such that that was not possible for the Prime Minister at that time. So this would give them an opportunity to do that. So yeah, Chrystia Freeland on her way out. So an actual going. Um, in terms of an you know perspective coming and going, there was some news out there a couple of days ago that we mentioned about an MP from, I believe it is from British Columbia. I think it is. I'm gonna go take a look at that because I do believe it is from British Columbia. His name is Scott Anderson, and he alleged that liberals were definitely putting out huge efforts to try to get him to cross the floor. He is the Conservative Member of Parliament for Vernon Lake County, Monashee. And, there was this big statement. I have no intention of crossing the floor. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. I will not betray my constituents. Oh my God, it'll be a cold day in hell before I betray my constituents. And somebody pointed out to me as well as why would anyone from the Liberal Party really try to court Scott Anderson? Because if you look at positions that he has taken and all of that kind of stuff, there is not really anything in there that would give one the impression that he would be happy as a liberal at all, or that he had anything in common for the liberal. Uh, so again, another thing that makes his claim a little less credible. It would seem that there was another attempt. I saw something go by my social media feed very briefly, that there might have been another um, CPC MP that was making similar claims, but it didn't get as much attention as Mr. Anderson's did. In fact, it pretty much went relatively unnoticed. Um, not sure how much truth there is to that. However, yesterday we heard news of another MP, this time from the NDP, actually stating that she was not going to be crossing the floor. And the way that she made the announcement and what she said when she made her announcement, if you compare and contrast to that which Scott Anderson did, his claim, and how he's like spiking the football, I will never do that. I will not betray my constituents. And then the way that the conservative machine took his claim and then amplified it over and over and over and over again. Right? And all of them saying, like, good on you for standing up for your constituents. Yeah. Oh my God, these terrible liberals. Oh my God, and this is what everybody should do. And I mean, if you look on his actual feed, Scott Anderson's feed, um, there's a long list of tweets and retweets and subtweets and all of that kind of stuff of everybody cheering him on, and yeah, this is what we really do. That the whole outrage. It- he just said it, and the party took it from there. But as we noted when we were looking at his screed, um, no names. And then somebody turned around and says, well, it was probably Hodgson. Well, Tim Hodgson, as we know, it is in the public domain, is one of the people um, who have been reaching out to people. He reached out to Michael Ma, for example, right? He is someone that the prime minister trusts. Surely he would be playing some type of role as a point person, probing, seeing if there's interest, being a conduit or the bridge between whoever would want to leave where they are and come to the Liberals. Uh, there's no doubt about that, because that's out there in the public domain. Probably Hodgson. Well, given that it's already out there that Hodgson's doing this type of stuff, it wouldn't be an extra hit to his reputation if Scott Anderson were to say, "Yeah, I was approached by Tim Hodgson," but he didn't do that. In fact, he didn't say at all who approached him, which is fine if you had other elements, like, for example, you could um, say that on this day, around this time, I had a conversation with people about this. But he didn't say that. He just said that the Liberals are pulling out all the stops, and I will never bend. No dates, no times, no people, no indication of what the offer would have been. No details about the conversation, no details about his deliberation, just this announcement that, oh my God, these liberals are so awful. They've been trying all these things to try to get me to come, and oh my God, it's so terrible. I will never do it. Nothing substantive. But with Lori Idlout, I want you to listen to how it is she tells the story of her experience about considering crossing the floor, and then compare it to Mr. Anderson's, and let me know which one you think is much more credible. This is according to Devin Tredenik of CBC News. Nunavut Nunavut's MP says she has no plans right now to join the federal Liberal Party. The right now caused a lot of tongues to wag, by the way. Quote, I have decided at this point that I can't, Lori Idlout told CBC News in an interview on Monday. I've definitely been asked to consider it. The NDP MP would not say who specifically has asked her to consider crossing the floor, but said they include both Liberal Party members and some of her own constituents. Already, the narrative is starting very different than that of Scott Anderson's. Quote, it definitely weighed heavily on me, and I've had so many conversations with people, and I just appreciate everyone who I've talked with, she said. What they've all said is whatever I decide, it will be what I think is best for Nunavummiut. Two other MPs, Chris D'Entremont and Michael Ma, recently left the Conservative Party to cross the floor and join the Liberals. That's brought the Liberals to being just one seat shy of forming a majority government. An emailed statement from the office of Idlout's neighboring MP in the Northwest Territories, Liberal Cabinet Minister Rebecca Alty, said Alty has not approached Idlout about crossing the floor. Quote, over the last year, Minister Alty has met with leaders and representatives throughout the North, including MP Idlout. These discussions have focused on identifying shared priorities and practical ways of working together to deliver results for Northerners, the email said. And as was pointed out on Power and Politics, because the North often functions according to consensus governments, right? Uh, at the territorial level, when they have their elections, people are elected, and nobody's running for premier or cabinet posts or all that kind of stuff. Everybody gets together, they are elected, and then they get around the table and they choose a premier, and a cabinet is chosen among there. It's a much more of a consensus model. So in Nunavut, it would not be rare, it would not be outside the political culture as it is, down here. It's you elected the seat, and that's a conservative seat. It belongs to us. You need to run on a by-election. That culture doesn't exist up north. It would be perfectly natural for constituents to go up to their MP and saying, it's like they are talking more about Arctic sovereignty. They are, you know, talking about indigenous ownership and partnership and projects and all that type of stuff. And, the conservatives definitely don't stand for us whatsoever unless we want oil on our territory. But other than that, they don't care about us. And, well, yeah, maybe it would be a good idea to give this government a majority and you should cross over because, that might secure our interests as Nunavummiut for a longer period of time. Maybe you should consider that. That is not abnormal culture whatsoever in the North. CBC News also contacted the Liberal Party to confirm whether the party was in talks with Idlout about crossing the floor. A spokesperson responded in an email saying that the Liberals are, quote, ready to work collaboratively with parliamentarians from all parties to build a stronger Canada. Idlout said she was surprised by D'Entremont and Ma's decisions to cross the floor last year. She also said she wouldn't be shocked if someone else followed in the months ahead. Quote, being asked to cross the floor definitely forced me to think a lot about how I can continue to do my job best for Nunavummiut, Idlout said. Idlout won the 2025 federal election with just 77 more votes than Liberal candidate Kelikvak Kabluna. She said a major part of her job is highlighting when her territory is not being respected or not getting the resources it needs. Quote, Canada's policies aren't necessarily to invest in the people so that we can thrive, Idlout said. And when we think about who's been in government since 1999 for Nunavut, it's been both Liberal and Conservative governments. Idlout, who's serving her second term as NDP MP, says joining the Liberals would mean she wouldn't be as free to criticize the government while advocating for her constituents. She cites concerns she has over the government's major projects legislation, the One Canadian Economy Act. Idlout criticized the Liberals for how fast they pushed the legislation through. Other groups have also voiced concern for what it means for Indigenous people. The act requires the government to consult Indigenous people whose rights may be affected by a major infrastructure project that's been fast-tracked for approval, but it also allows Cabinet to overrule Parliament for certain major projects. Idlout said she couldn't do a good job representing Nunavummiut, quote, if I were forced to vote in favor of violating Indigenous people's rights. Idlout also cited other things she wants to pressure the government on, including Arctic sovereignty and security, housing, and healthcare. She says the Liberal government should invest more in the Canadian Rangers to help keep the Arctic secure and be less reliant on the military that would be flown in. Notice that so far there isn't any comment about Mark Carney's designer suits or the fact that he has a recession or inflation-proof job. Just saying. Gerald Sabin, a political science professor at Carleton University who focuses on northern and federal politics, said Idlout's current role in opposition can allow her to be more critical of the government and speak more freely about federal policy in the north. He also noted that an MP's crossing the floor risks upsetting the people who voted for them. Quote, they can face the backlash right from their constituents who said, no, I voted NDP. That's where I wanted my vote to go. And now you've changed that without seeking our consent, Sabin said. However, he said the downside of being in opposition is, quote, always being on the outside looking in. Sabin added that members crossing from an opposition party to the government can sometimes be rewarded, possibly with a role in cabinet or with a parliamentary secretary position. Quote, you may also gain the benefit of having some leverage over the government by saying, I was one of the people who crossed the floor to give you your majority, and so these are the concessions or the policies that I'm looking for your government, said Sabin. So yes, Lori Idlout had a lot to consider there, whether or not she can make some gains, have more, be more effective for constituents as a member of the government, or whether or not, being able to more freely oppose what is going on, or to at least be critical, was more important. And at this time, she has decided that it would appear that that there's been further sort of press releases and stuff like that that seem to seek to clarify the at this time without like directly mentioning it. And it seems that maybe at this time was literally like at this moment that I'm thinking about it like this, that it wouldn't be a good time. But that does not necessarily mean I'm considering it. I'm still open to it at another time, right? It seems to be the you know I've considered and when once I weighed everything, what my constituents told me, what the offer is, can I be more effective over there or can I be more effective and still being critical? When I put that all together, at this point, I just can't do that, right? So it sounds more like if circumstances were to change dramatically on the political chessboard, maybe there would be something. But it doesn't look like, for now, I'm not doing that, but come and ask me in another 2 months. That doesn't seem to be the vibe that she intended by using that qualifier in that answer. It would also seem that, how would I put it? It would also seem that, according to a conversation on power and politics, that there might have been a meeting date set up at some point, and that the meeting didn't actually happen. And I believe they had given a date around to December 18th or something. What I heard on Power and Politics, don't quote me on that, but that's the date I kind of remember in my head. Um, Again, compared to Scott Anderson, right? Doesn't talk about his deliberation, doesn't talk about his constituents in the same way that she does, doesn't talk about, um, the things that he weighed back and forth. It's sort of like they tried to lure me, and oh my God, it's so awful and so shameless, and I will never, ever, ever do that. Ah, yes, she's not naming people, um, but you can see that there was considered thought about her position, and with all the other news out there, like there may have been an actual meeting scheduled with the prime minister and an actual date. These bits of information are out there. Nothing of the sort from Scott Anderson. No attempts from Lori Idlout to go out of her way to bash the government there, um, you know, while maintaining the things that were there uh, in her thought process about the things about which she is somewhat critical of the government. Yes, that's out there. That's it. But no gratuitous attacks, nothing airy, right? And the way that she's coming out and she's reporting it, when you compare and contrast to that which Scott Anderson has done, just makes it makes his version of the story, his tale, seem less credible because juxtaposition often reveals a lot, a lot. So yeah, the other person, if I was able to find the article, um, that also made the claim, it did get a little bit of press coverage, but not as much as Scott Anderson. Was the Conservative MP for Sudbury East Manitoulin Nickel Belt. This came out on January 3rd. It's not clear where the rumor originated, but the Conservative MP for Sudbury East Manitoulin Nickel Belt is making his stance clear. Jim Bélanger posted a short video to his Facebook profile on December 23rd saying he will not be crossing the floor to join the Carney Liberals, and any gossip to the contrary is totally ridiculous and completely false. He went on to make a promise to his constituents. Quote, I've been elected as a Conservative member. He said, I will be a Conservative tomorrow. I will be running in the next election as a Conservative. That's assuming your nomination papers are signed, sir. Just saying. Just saying. Uh, so yeah, on his case, it seems that there were rumors going around. Who started the rumors? Who created the rumors? But they were gaining traction enough that he needed to address them. So he's not claiming that he was courted, but someone put it out there. Um, just say that he's considering it, and then let it happen. And this has happened a couple of times with the Conservatives. There was another an MP from Quebec, female MP from Quebec, soon after the d'Entremont and Genereux floor crossings, who also had to come out and specifically say that she was not going to be crossing the floor as well. And I wish I could find her name off the top of my head so I can mention it. But yes, she also basically said no, because there were some rumors going around. And same thing with Matt General. We didn't know anything about him as well. Apparently, he too might have had a meeting scheduled. But yes, he too, there were rumors about him crossing the floor. And he had to come out and say that they were not true, even though he is resigning, though. So yeah, and according to this MP from Sudbury East Manitoulin, Nickel Belt, Mr. Bélanger, it goes on to say here in the article, while Bélanger has made clear he won't be crossing the floor, there are expectations that someone else will seize the opportunity in 2026. This is according to David Tabachnik, a political science professor at Nipissing University. If one person can cross the floor and make it a majority, then you really have years of governing. You can pass legislation and budgets. You can have an influence and direct the country the way you want as an MP. He isn't hazarding any guesses who might cross and who might stay put. But he says, if you stay in the Conservative fold, you're going to have to fight that opposition fight, which indeed they've been fighting for about 10 years. So maybe the idea of governing is so attractive to some MPs that they will cross. And I do expect to see that in the new year. The by-elections, however, throw a twist in things because some are considered safe Liberal seats. But if there are any that are a swing, if you gain one through a floor crossing and then happen to lose one in a by-election, that's a lot of work to essentially be treading water. And the possibility of these by-elections do open the door for that eventuality. We still don't know which seats, and of course depends on candidates, and of course campaigns matter and all that kind of stuff. People are wondering if Matt Genereux's seat will flip. That one is a flippable one, given that there's only 5% difference in the last election between the first and the second place. But more recent polling has seemed to indicate that there would not be a flip, that at least 5% margin would be able to be maintained. But that was before Pierre Poilievre congratulated Trump on potentially displacing Alberta oil. So, some opinions may be changing. You never know. But that is a risk that the Prime Minister has. The Prime Minister seems fairly confident, says we will be having by-elections and we will be running quality candidates. And that's pretty much all he had to say as a result of all of that. All right. Let's see what else we have, since we were talking about coming and goings, and we did mention in the province of Quebec, it seems that there might be a candidate declaring for the leadership of the Québec Liberal Party. I believe I can't remember his first name. I know his last name is Milliard, and which is interesting because Milliard is French for billion, actually. And I believe he may have ran in the last race as well, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to look him up here because I saw the article this morning, but had not set it aside, and I should have. There we go. I'll just type that in. There we go. I guess he has declared, because I'm seeing here, according to TVA Nouvelles, Charles Milliard dans la course pour diriger le PLQ, which means it seems that he is all in here. There was some doubt about whether or not someone who was in the race last time would run again, but it seems that he was the runner-up last time, and that he might indeed be inclined to run. So according to CBC News here, it says Charles Milliard, the former CEO of Quebec's Federation of Chambers of Commerce and a pharmacist by training, is running again for the leadership of the Quebec Liberals. Milliard made the announcement in a video posted to social media early Tuesday. He said he would work to restore the Liberal Party's standing in Quebec politics. This leadership campaign will be about bringing a stronger Quebec with a better economy, a transparent government, and public services you can actually rely on, he said in the video. Well, you know what, kids and cubs, since he said it in a video, yes, it's true though. It will be in French. Well, no. Actually, half French, half English. Already has some people upset. Moitié français, moitié anglais. Non, merci. Au Québec, c'est en français. Point. Traduction simultanée existe. Non, PLQ bilingue est soumis au Canada. Clearly, a Parti québécois voter, I would assume here, said half French, half English. No, thank you. In Quebec, it's in French. That's it. Simultaneous interpretation exists. No to a bilingual Parti libéral du Québec and in submission and who is in submission to Canada. Okay. So, yeah, we won't do the video thing because the simultaneous interpretation would rely on me here. So we'll just rely on the article. Milliard came a close second in the party's previous leadership contest to Pablo Rodriguez. Rodriguez stepped down last month after weeks of internal discord and allegations of vote buying by party members during his leadership race. Milliard is the first to officially declare his candidacy for the leadership. Several other potential candidates, including Carl Blackburn, the former head of the Conseil du Patronat du Québec, have said they won't run for the position. If other candidates come forward, the race will officially begin on January 12th and a new leader chosen at a party convention on March 14th. Mario Roy, a farmer and economist who has also ran last time and received less than 1% of the vote, has also thrown his hat into the ring. In a Facebook post Tuesday afternoon, he announced he is running for leadership once again. Quote, real and profound renewal is indeed now more than ever, he wrote, encouraging his followers to join the party and participate. Others are also considering the possibility, including Yves Desjardins Siciliano, a former CEO of VRL Canada, who told Radio-Canada earlier this week that the door is still open to running for the leadership. Candidates will be required to collect 750 signatures from party members and pay a deposit of $30,000. The leadership contest comes less than a year before the province's next general election, with the vote scheduled for October 5th. And I'm changing my mind. I'm actually going to show the Milliard video, and if I have to do some simultaneous interpretation, that's quite all right, because this person could very well indeed end up being the next leader of the Quebec Liberal Party. And if, of course, if you can turn that ship around really quickly, or if there's Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, the leader of the Parti québécois, keeps on behaving like Pierre Poilievre, turn people off, because again, campaigns matter.
Chers militants du Parti libéral du Québec.
Dear militants of the Quebec Liberal Party.
En 2025, on a passé beaucoup de temps ensemble à
In 2025, we've spent lots of time together.
discuter de notre avenir. Au cours des dernières semaines, vous avez été nombreux à me contacter de toutes les régions du
Over the course of the last few weeks, you have been numerous in contacting me from various
Québec
regions
pour qu'on puisse poursuivre ensemble cette
across the province so that we may pursue together
conversation.
this
Je veux vous
conversation.
dire comment votre enthousiasme me touche profondément.
I want to tell you how your enthusiasm has profoundly touched me.
Comme vous, je partage deux grands constats.
Like you, I share two major realizations.
La Coalition Avenir Québec a eu 8 ans pour nous impressionner.
The coalition Avenir Québec, the party currently in power, has had 8 years to impress us.
Et personne au Québec actuellement est impressionné par la santé de nos services publics
And no one in Quebec is currently impressed by the status of our public services
et le déficit qu'ils ont créé.
and
Et de leur côté,
and the deficit they have created.
le Parti québécois ont une seule et même obsession, la souveraineté du Québec.
And at the other side of the ledger, the Parti québécois has one and only one obsession, Quebec sovereignty.
Alors que les Québécois veulent entendre parler du coût de la vie, de santé, d'éducation,
While Quebecers want to hear about the cost of living, health, education,
et de culture.
and culture.
Face à ce cul-de-sac politique et fort de son histoire,
Facing this political dead end and, it's also its history,
le PLQ doit redevenir une force politique
the Quebec Liberal Party must become
incontournable au Québec et
an undeniable force in Quebec,
il doit proposer des idées.
and it must propose ideas.
Des idées qui parlent aux Québécois, à leur tête, à leur cœur, à leur poche.
Ideas that speak to Quebecers, to their heads, their hearts, and their pocketbooks.
Chers amis, le renouveau du Parti libéral, c'est maintenant que ça se passe.
Dear friends, the renewal of the Liberal Party, it is now that it takes place.
Et c'est pour cette raison aujourd'hui que je vous annonce que je serai à nouveau candidat à la chefferie du Parti libéral du Québec.
And it is for this reason that I am announcing that I will be a candidate for the leadership of the Quebec Liberal Party.
Je reviens vers vous parce que je connais le parti, parce que
I'm returning to you because I know the party,
je sais ce qu'il faut faire pour nous rassembler et reconquérir les Québécoises.
because I know what we must do in order to come together. And I forgot the verb, I'm sorry. On that
Et les
one.
Québécois. Et je le fais aussi parce que j'ai le goût de me battre.
To bring together the Quebecers, and because I have the fight in me.
De me battre pour vous, de me battre avec vous.
Fight
This
for you, to
leadership
fight with
campaign
you.
will be about bringing a stronger Quebec with a better economy, a transparent government, and public services you can actually rely on. Ce que je vous demande, c'est de me donner le privilège de porter nos idées lors de la prochaine campagne électorale.
What I'm asking you for is the privilege to carry our ideas over the course of the next Liberal campaign,
Face à François Legault, mais aussi, bien sûr, face à Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon.
facing François Legault, but of course also Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon.
Je vais le faire avec bienveillance et je vais le faire aussi avec conviction, avec un seul objectif en tête, notre victoire en octobre 2026.
I'm going to do it with care, and I'm going to do it with the intention of securing a victory in October 2026.
Aujourd'hui, je veux être votre chef pour bâtir le Québec de demain. À
Today, I want to be your leader in order to build the Quebec of tomorrow.
très bientôt.
See you very soon. So the person who lost their minds, saying half in French, half in English, yeah, right, being disingenuous as often people are on social media, there was one line in English. One line. One line in English was enough that alleged real person off. As the Quebec Liberals being in submission to Canada, rather than looking at that one line as an opportunity to recognize that there were not only francophones in Quebec. And I'm saying this as a francophone. So, again, mademoiselle, vous charriez un petit peu. I'm using some slang here, just basically saying you are carrying on just a little here. So yeah, Milliard is in. There seems to be a couple of other candidates, well, at least one other candidate that was in. So we'll have two at least. So it seems that there is a race, and then probably with more names to come. Another person that we have mentioned previously is the person that seems to be throwing his hat in the ring for the leadership of the BC Conservative Party. And we showed you one video. He put out another one yesterday. And here's the thing. The first video, you kind of get an idea. Now you want to see if there's a trend. And when we saw the first video, this is Yuri Fulmer. We thought, it's there's some very similar connections to Pierre Poilievre's videos, but he's talking about how things in British Columbia are broken and they're terrible. Not extremely hard on specifics, And basically, I'm the one that's here, and I'm going to fix this. I'm going to give you your lives back, essentially, type thing. But in a much calmer demeanor than that of Pierre Polyev. So, you know, you get the little red flag. Sounds a lot like Pierre Polyev. I'm hearing a lot of that. But is that the case? Because, you can't make a full determination on just one video. You want a body of work. Well, he's got a second one. And you tell me, kids and cubs, if we are not dealing with a clear Pierre Polyev clone, but again, a calmer voice, less flapping of the pigeon wings, less pointing the finger at things during his videos, less breathlessness, and an accent. So basically, that's what we have. It is Pierre Polyev. Same constants again, but a different presentation, but exactly the same rhetoric. That was my impression. Want you to take a look at it and tell me what it is that you think here.
The place can be changed for the worse. In a little under 9 years, the NDP and their out-of-touch policies have driven this province right into the ground. Violent crime extortion is everywhere. Random street assaults are on the rise. Government waste and tax dollars being used to fund the chaos and the disorder we're all suffering through. All the while, good, hard-working British Columbians see more and more of their paychecks going to pay taxes to this government and not to building their own future.
The BC Supreme Court ruled the Cowichan tribes hold Aboriginal title to part of the Fraser River and land in developed areas of Richmond, BC.
So does that mean that the BC government would almost be the backstop for their mortgages?
That's right. Nothing is getting better. EB's disastrous experiment with legalizing drugs? It unleashed chaos. Only the NDP would need to try legalizing heroin to find out there's a reason we have drug laws. This NDP government isn't just failing. They've been overseeing the rapid decline of the province. But it's time for a hard truth, my friends. We have in a way enabled it. Every outburst, every undisciplined tweet, we have not been a credible alternative. This kind of behavior has provided EB with exactly what he's needed. A perfect distraction from the NDP record of total chaos. We do not need to change our values. We need to change our leadership. Our leadership must be credible. I want to stand up for conservative values in this province. I want to stand up for low taxes, for property rights, for personal freedom, and I want to do it in a way that brings more people into our party. My name is Yuri Fulmer, and I'm running to bring credible leadership to the Conservative Party of British Columbia, to defeat David Eby's radical left NDP, and to rebuild our province. I'm not a politician, I'm not a political commentator, I'm a father, a philanthropist and a proud entrepreneur who's built a $500 million business from the ground up right here in British Columbia. I'm running to be the Premier of British Columbia because I don't think it would be possible today for a young person to start something from the ground up like that. I'm running to be the leader of this party because I know British Columbia needs strong, conservative leadership. I'm asking for your support to take on and defeat David Eby, and I hope you'll stand beside me.
All right.
You know, it's amazing.
So, kids and cubs, what do you think? What do you think? A little more passionate delivery than in the previous one. A little bit of finger. There's a little bit of finger in there. But, yeah. Are you hearing? Do you hear what I hear when you are listening to that? Do you hear what it's like the similarities. Everything's broken, everything's destructive. Oh my God. The the NDP legalized drugs. No, they didn't. They decriminalized a few things. They didn't legalize drugs. I'm sure they did not legalize heroin, as is being claimed. Right? The whole province is a hellhole after 9 years of NDP. Cinematic music, and right down to the exploitation of tragedy and misfortune of other people, and even using their likeness in the video. I'm sure he got their consent and approval. Videos of people in some of the worst moments or the most desperate moments of their lives, scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Again, some of the variables may be different, but the constant to me is the same. He is literally lifting the Polyev playbook, but trying to deliver it with a softer voice. I'm not a politician. I'm a father. You've certainly studied the playbook, though, sir, haven't you? And yes, Kid Bucky, the decriminalization of drugs was a failed experiment because it wasn't coordinated with a larger strategy, as was the case when it was attempted in Portugal. They only did half the job. You needed to do the other half. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a very accurate statement, sir. But yeah, Kit Elaine, it made me throw up in my mouth a bit. Kit Saucy. More populism. Yep. Indeed. Same old song, same old dance. Different tone, slightly different presentation, but everything else pretty much the same. The utter insistence on lack of originality is rather. And in his tweet promoting this video, I'm running to be the next Premier of British Columbia because our province deserves real leadership and a chance to be the envy of Canada once again. That is literally Pierre Poilievre. Yet another one who does not know that one can't run for Prime Minister or a Premier in Canada, that you can only run for the representative of riding. Is it too much to please ask? Is it too much to ask? Please, 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 to have some real Conservative candidates who at least understand the ABCs of Canadian civics. Real chance to be the end. British Columbia deserves to be the envy of Canada once again. We should be the envy of Canada. We should be the envy of the world. We should have the cheapest head. We should. We were once the envy of all of Canada. Now look at us. David Eby and the NDP cannot be allowed to continue to mismanage the economy with a spiraling deficit while the cost of living skyrockets, criminals go unpunished, the healthcare system crumbles, and tens of thousands of people flee the province. Guys, would like to have some fact checks on net migration in and out of British Columbia, and would like to have some fact checks on the economic management. Cost of living, we always know, is a very heavy in British Columbia, and the fact that cost of living is skyrocketing is definitely not unique to British Columbia. Criminals going unpunished, allegedly, for the manner in which Conservatives would like to punish criminals. And then the whole jail not bail thing, we would have to build a whole lot more prison space. That's a lot of money. I'm not sure how you manage to control an alleged spiraling deficit if you want to spend billions upon billions building jails. And then housing people there and all these multiple interactions with the justice system. If your political party and political movement wants to criminalize everyone, turn everybody into criminals, yes, and everybody has to remain in jail before the charges have been tested in court, regardless of anything, because they might commit another crime. You have to build a lot of jail space. That costs a lot of money, and that's money that won't be going into health or education. All those things you want to say you want to make better. It's literally copying the playbook. And this candidacy is already starting the wars because, Wyatt Claypool, that guy, well, he's working for BC1. And, when Yuri Fulmer talks about, every undisciplined tweet from our party, they right away stirring the pot. Is Yuri suggesting the problem is in the BC Conservative was not enough centralized control over messaging? That's the problem, mate, says Wyatt Claypool, blue checkmark bullshitter account, who pretty much only delivers the talking point that is approved by Central Command, complaining about centralized control over messaging being the problem. We know he doesn't believe that. And this guy is being ratioed pretty hard here. One question, will you immediately undo UNDRIP or not? What's your stance on natural resource development in BC? Radical change on that front is direly needed. What's your plan for cutting the size of government and bureaucracy? Instead of NDP bashing, explain what you are doing. And while I understand that my questions are federal responsibility, premiers to have skin in the game. Where do you stand on NATO? BC shares a long border with the US. Security, American influence in the media? Not so fast. So far, it's the typical con right-wing populist rage baiting, trying to win the leadership of the party first, long way from the premier's office. Just rolling off radical a bunch of times and talking about conservative values without specifically stating what they are and what you'll do is an immediate red flag. We've heard it all before. No thanks. What's your plan for healthcare? Are you going to privatize it as the conservative governments in Alberta and Ontario are doing? I want to see some long-form interviews with no softball questions. What was his response to COVID? Yuck, another right-wing business guy with a ton of rage bait and no specific solutions. No thanks. Another one. You lost to the Green Party candidate in the last provincial election. You were arrogant and assumed you'd win. Ooh, ouch. Ouch. So yeah. Hard pass, Yuri. Don't get me wrong. We need to dump the NDP, but it ain't you. Ouch. A lot of promises you're making here. How would you fix the downtown east side? Please be specific. Oh, for the love of God, change the negative attack narrative. It's extremely unappealing. The second I hear it, I tune out. Yep. Not particularly impressive here. Oh boy, kids and cubs. I tell you. They still haven't realized that the playbook is not working. But yeah, maybe if I try it this way, maybe if I try it that way, who knows? Maybe it'll work for me this time. Ugh. All right. The last little bit that we have, yesterday we announced very briefly on the show, speaking of a coming and going, that the Prime Minister will be going to China for a very important visit, the timing of which is certainly very, very, very interesting, kits and cubs. considering everything that's going on in the world, particularly with Venezuela, right? Venezuela is not just about the United States. It's not about oil, right? China has some interests in Venezuela. Cuba has some interests in Venezuela. Russia has some interests in Venezuela. And I don't know if there's a lot of theater going on. The United States was pursuing two vessels that allegedly had oil, and then Russia, I believe, sent something out to pursue the American vessel that was pursuing. That could all have been for show. China is taking some very vocal stances, saying that the United States needs to stop what it's doing. A little concerned about what this means for itself. Apparently, some of the forces that were protecting Mr. Maduro were Cuban, and there's some people who died in the process of, quote, extracting, seizing / kidnapping, choose the word you want, out of the country. According to David Baxter of the Canadian Press, Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet with President Xi Jinping in Beijing next week as he makes the first official trip to China by a Canadian Prime Minister in more than 8 years. Carney's office confirmed the trip on Wednesday, which comes as the two countries move to restore stronger ties after years of trade and political tensions. The statement from the Prime Minister's office said the trip, which runs January 13th to 17th, will build on the first meeting between Carney and Xi at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum in South Korea on October 31st. That was the first official meeting between the leaders of Canada and China since the former Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, traveled to China in December 2017. Carney is also set to attend the World Economic Forum in Davos. Oh my God, cute people's minds melting. Switzerland from July 19th to 21st. The Prime Minister's office said he plans to meet with investors and government business leaders at the event. If you are a viewer of this show and you happen to be of Jewish faith, I feel please accept my pre-sympathies for all the anti-Semitic tropes that you will be exposed to during that period, particularly from conservative camps. A lot of anti-WEF rhetoric is rooted in anti-Semitic tropes. So our friends from that community are going to be seeing a lot of that crap during that period. I don't know, there's something about World Economic Forum that just makes conservative minds melt. The diplomatic relationship between Canada and China nearly disintegrated in 2018 following Canada's arrest of a Chinese telecom executive at the request of the United States and China's subsequent arbitrary detention of 2 Canadians who had been working in Canada. Trade relations have also suffered. Canada has imposed a 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles and a 25% import tax on steel and aluminium over the last 2 years. China responded by hitting Canada with a 100% tariff on various agricultural products, including canola oil and peas, plus a 25% levy on pork and seafood products. China's ambassador to Canada has said that Chinese tariffs would be removed if Canada dropped its EV tariffs. Carney said in September Ottawa should be, quote, clearer about where we engage with China, that Canada could collaborate deeply with Beijing on energy, climate change, and basic manufacturing while maintaining guardrails around national security matters. Since taking office, Carney has focused the bilateral relationship on economic issues and restarted a dormant working group with China aimed at rectifying trade irritants. He has said that Canada's strategy is to work with China where there is common ground and respect differences while defending Canadian interests. That follows years of Beijing urging Canada to focus on shared priorities instead of flashpoints, such as China's repression in Hong Kong and allegations of human rights abusers targeting Uyghurs and other minorities. Yeah, of course, China would just focus on the economic stuff and just let us do to our people what it is we will do. That would be very convenient. And very good for China, according to the communist government of the PRC, of course. The PRC has no problem then criticizing our treatment of indigenous people whenever we bring up the Uyghurs. But again, as if you care about indigenous people. People's Republic of China. Yeah, well, we believe that. Quote, Wang Di, China's ambassador to Canada, suggested in September the bilateral relationship was on the right path. Quote, with joint efforts from both Chinese and Canadian sides, the downward trend of bilateral relations was reversed and the steady improvement has started, Di told a reception. Canadian oil exports to China hit their highest ever recorded level last year as the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion came online and as Canada sought to respond to U.S. President Donald Trump's trade war. Carney and Xi met privately for about 40 minutes at the October summit, and while no movement on trade issues came out of that meeting, Xi invited Carney to visit China in the new year. Carney said he was, quote, very pleased with that meeting and suggested it represented a turning point in Canada-China relations. That's a sharp turn from comments Carney made during the leaders' debate in the spring federal election when he described China as, quote, the biggest security threat facing Canada. Carney later attributed the threat to Chinese foreign interference activities in Canadian politics and China's activity in the Arctic. China calls itself a near Arctic state and is looking to develop shipping routes and natural resources in the region. China's like Gretchen in the movie Clueless, trying to make fetch happen. China is trying to make near Arctic state happen. So you're either an Arctic state or you're not. And China said, well, we're near the Arctic. You know, you should consider us too. Well, no. But then China is the size that it is and has the influence that it is. So it's kind of hard to just say no and ignore it if it's going to insist in inserting itself in that discussion. After the October meeting, Carney said he raised the issue of foreign interference with Xi and that Beijing does not understand how seriously Canada takes the issue. Last January, a federal inquiry declared that, quote, China is the most active perpetrator of foreign interference targeting Canada's democratic institutions at all levels. While in China, Carney will also meet Chinese Premier Li Qiang, as well as business leaders to discuss trade, energy, agriculture, and international security. Carney is likely to visit China again this year with leaders in the tech hub of Shenzhen. So here we have the Prime Minister going, and we know that with China, things take some time, and getting to this point where the Prime Minister is going for, if you want to call it China time, Communist Party of China time, this is fast. It is not unforeseeable that after this meeting that there could be some movement on some trade issues. I'm not sure whether or not Canada is ready to remove the tariffs 100% on EVs from China, because we're still trying to figure out what our dealings with the United States are going to look like. But there could be other types of agreements made, or maybe a reduction in those tariffs by a certain amount that would lead to some movement from China on some of their tariffs, possibly. But this meeting does allow for that type of opportunity, even if it's just one or two small actions that could be sort of not necessarily symbolic, that they could be true actions, but could symbolize the fact that the turning point has indeed taken place. This meeting, the fact that it's even taking place, is one of those signs. But you know, if you can go into that meeting and come up with a couple of agreements that do indicate not only that we are looking at these areas of cooperation for the future, but that we are indeed taking some steps to thaw the relationship now, that would be an interestingly timed move, and one that would be very helpful to the federal government, given that Pierre Poilievre has changed his rhetoric to Mark Carney has not been able to get a deal by July 21st with the United States. What a failure he is. To recently, Mark Carney has not been able to get a single tariff reduced with everyone. Well, if he comes back from this meeting after the 17th with at least one tariff reduced from China, again, that will be another Pierre Poilievre tweet that does not age well. If he comes back with something a little more substantive, that would be yet another one. Now, a little interesting piece of data when I was doing the research for the show yesterday made me wonder is, with what's going on with Venezuela, the Russia part saying that it has problems with what Trump is doing in Venezuela. For form, seems to be what we would expect from Russia, but if there was some, again, sitting at the international poker table at which everyone is cheating. Again, credit to Belle of the Ranch over the fifth column for that visual. Um, Sometimes at that international poker table at which everyone is cheating, people slide cards to each other under the table. And sometimes they donate chips to each other. In a recent commentary by Belle of the Ranch, suggested that some of these players at the international poker table are such high rollers that sometimes other nations in their entirety are chips that are slid across the table to someone else who you would like to stay in the game a little longer. Quite possible that there was some discussions behind the scenes that Vladimir Putin slid some chips called Venezuela to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump slid some chips called Ukraine to Putin, right? Reminds us again of that editorial cartoon from Theo Moudakis that I showed you yesterday with Tweedledee and Tweedledum, each holding their respective chip. This one right here, Kits and Cubs. I'll show you that just to refresh your memory. So what if the United States and Russia slid each other those chips? And there's a lot of, again, theater going on. Vessels pursuing each other on the high seas. And oh my God, Putin must be really mad. Oh my, Trump really did it this time. Is his relationship with Putin fraying because they seem to have different interests? They seem to be having different interests, but maybe they don't really care. China, however, is a big question mark because Trump has been rather antagonistic with regard to China for a bit, particularly with things on trade, much more antagonistic than he's been with Russia. So we don't really know where the China equation is there. And China, of course, and Russia are in very close collaboration. We've talked about that pipeline that China and Russia would love to see built. Gas pipeline across their territory, which would automatically take 10% of the world demand for LNG off the table if they could make that type of deal. But it made me wonder if China does have some interests in Venezuela with regard to oil, and the United States wants to capture and seize all of that so that some of that oil does not go to China. That oil can remain, and this is the scary part too, that 30 to 50 billion barrels or something like that Venezuela is essentially giving to the United States to be controlled by Donald Trump himself, that he can decide what he's doing with, sell to whoever he's want, and control what it is that he does with the money. Allegedly, of course, that money is going to be used to help both the United States and Venezuela. But the whole concept of his, hey, let me invade your country, kidnap or seize your leader, declare all of your oil resources ours, say that I'm going to be running things, and then trust that I will run it for your benefit. I don't find that particularly credible at all. And as the days are going by, we are seeing that Trump has indeed moved in, and we are talking about the oil and all that kind of stuff. But the regime isn't changing. And Mr. Jim brought to my attention a great video that from a gentleman. I've seen stuff before, and I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head, because he does these great videos. He's American, has a beautiful Southern drawl that I really, really like hearing. When I listen to his videos, very calm, very reasoned, does some very solid analysis. And hopefully I can get his name for you so that you can check it out yourself here. His name is Robert Arnold. And if you look at Venezuela as exit positioning, he has a theory about what's going on here. With regard to the United States, that is entirely very plausible and based on patterns of behavior that have existed in the past. It's almost a tale as old as time, but we might not have seen it with North American eyes for a while, and it's the overall theory would be that a president that pretty much knows that he has already entered his lame duck phase, and for the rest of the time that they are in power, basically it's going to be enough time for him to organize deals and make sure that deals go through for those who had supported him, and maybe in the process organize a very seamless, quick, and easy and cushy exit for himself. Perhaps say to a more tropical climate, perhaps say, oh, I don't know, Argentina, who knows? And that's what the rest of the mandate will be focused on, right? Because if you really wanted to take over Venezuela, you would be sending more there, and makes the point that business likes stability and unpredictability, and if you're actually liberating Venezuela and changing, risking for the government in power to change, then that might mean that the new government might see the future of oil in Venezuela a little different than the people who are there now see it, and Donald Trump see it, and that would be inconvenient. Now, would it? It would be so much more convenient to maintain stability for the business community by keeping the current repressive government in place, and either putting in a puppet or making sure that the government in place is really, really, really keen to making sure that the business interests, no matter what, are never disrupted. Do to your people what you like. Just leave this corner here as our playground. We don't want any unpredictability in that area. And sometimes the best way to do that is to maintain a repressive regime while ensuring that you maintain access to the resource that you want. And also making the point that maybe this push in Greenland has something to do more obviously with critical minerals, because critical minerals will be to this century that which oil was to the last one. And therefore, there's a lot of prepositioning. So is it an exit strategy? Donald Trump knows he's got to go, and he's going to be going at some point soon, maybe even sooner rather than later, especially if midterms happen. So it's time to secure all those deals. And as we know, in the United States, a lot of presidents, when they reach their lame duck period, particularly if one of the houses flips against them, which is quite likely in the midterms, then all of a sudden they stop doing domestic stuff as much and start focusing more on the international and foreign relations stuff. Which is, again, ensuring that all the people to who he has some debts get their deals finalized and through before he is actually gone, while, of course, making sure that he has a nice, cushy exit for himself. That could be going on at the moment. So we don't really know where China stands. And then it prompted me to ask a question. Well, how much oil from Venezuela does China actually buy? And it's hard to get data because oil production has really decreased in Venezuela over the past, since the entire Chavez and Maduro thing. And a lot of infrastructure has been left to go unattended. And there's a lot of work that would need to be done to rehabilitate a lot of stuff in order to get that production underway as much as they would like. There are some American companies that already own assets there, like Chevron, who might be more able to go in a little more earlier and reclaim some of those assets. But there's a lot of things in order to come online that would require a lot of investment, a lot of work. I've heard something like $150 billion would be needed over the next 10 years. And of course, there needs to be, like I said, a case for that capital to go there and that stability and that guarantee that there would be in return, which again is not conducive to actually having a new government that would um, be Venezuelan led. And the choice of it would be Venezuelan led. It's much more convenient to keep people who will not rock the boat too much if you're on the business side of that thing. But it made me wonder. And then some of the data I was able to find was indicating that there was a time, at least, and I'm not sure if that's the current situation or when Venezuela was at peak production, that China was purchasing about 68% of the oil from Venezuela. And then I was wondering, well, if China and the US truly are at odds with regard to Venezuela, with Putin, it might be some more construpiece theater here, or political theater or stagecraft. But let's say with China, it actually is true because there's a little more history of antagonism. Then it was, my thinking was, well, does China buy oil from the US too? Because we know it does buy a little bit from us. It's using a lot of it actually to extract the tar and build roads and not so much for oil, but they still need our oil for some purposes. So I went to look it up according to the Visual Capitalist, the top suppliers of China's crude oil imports. And there's some interesting information. I don't know if this is a thing, because again, this is way above my pay grade, but certain things that I've noticed that could be in play here, and it could become things that we see down the road. If we're looking, China imports most from Russia. Crude oil imports in thousands of barrels per day in 2024 was 2,175 barrels a day from Russia, 1,576 from Saudi Arabia, 1,279 from Iraq, 712 from the United Arab Emirates, 221 from Kuwait. United Arab Emirates, I think I did not pronounce that correctly, 321 from Kuwait, and then 192 barrels per day in 2024 from the United States and 184 from Canada. China imports similar amounts of oil from both countries. Now, they're probably different types of oil, but similar amounts of oil. And then if you go down here, now you have regions, South and Central America, 1,055 barrels a day from other countries. I'm going to guess that Venezuela is included in there. I don't know how much of that 1,055 is Venezuela. But if Venezuela is producing 300,000 barrels a day, and let's say China is purchasing 65% of that, if that is, let's say we apply those numbers and we assume that they are today's numbers, that's 204,000 barrels over the course of a year. And if you divide that by 365, because it's barrels per day, well, that is 558. Let's say 559 if you're rounding it up. Well, 559 is significantly more than the 182 that it gets from 184 it gets from us, and 192 that it gets from the United States. So what if, as a result of these talks, for example, with Canada, there is some agreement, and it might not be announced just now, it could come in a couple of months, that China is going to start buying more oil from Canada, starting with, let's say, an extra 192,000 barrels per day. What if China suddenly announced it was going to make that transition and basically shut the United States out? And if China recognizes that some of its oil, access to oil from Venezuela might slow down, what if China also said, Canada, Would you like to take the opportunity to fill some of that gap as well? That is a possibility that is now opening up, and the timing of this meeting soon after the U.S. incursion into Venezuela could lead one to have the impression that that is a possibility. China might be looking at wanting to pre-plan its contingency at the moment. Now, there have been some news articles out there claiming that it's Iranian oil that will make up for China's loss of Venezuelan supply. That China will be looking to Iran to oilprice.com here. China is now buying less Venezuelan oil. Chinese oil buyers have reduced their intake of Venezuelan oil as the discount between Brent and the country's flagship Mary crude shrank from $15 per barrel last month to $13, Bloomberg reported, citing unnamed sources. This was reporting from January 6th. The price rise of Venezuelan oil follows the U.S. naval blockade that has disrupted tanker traffic to and from Venezuela, and that is not about to be lifted anytime soon. Quote, according to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, we continue with that quarantine, and we expect to see that there will be changes, not just in the way the oil industries run for the benefit of the people, but also so that they stop the drug trafficking. We can dispense with that pretense. It's not about the drugs. According to a Bloomberg report from late December, the Venezuelan state oil company was looking to shut in about 15% of Venezuela's total oil production, around 1.1 million barrels per day, by slashing Orinoco Belt output by 25% to about 500,000 barrels per day. However, Reuters reported earlier this week that tankers are still leaving Venezuela loaded with crude and fuel oil to the tune of total 12 million barrels, according to ship tracking data. Per the report, the half dozen vessels are sailing in so-called dark mode without any flags or safety documentation. All of the tankers are under U.S. sanctions. Half of them are super tankers that usually transport crude oil from Venezuela to China, which has been the South American country's biggest crude oil buyer. Separately, Kepler reports that there are some 82 million barrels of crude oil, including from Venezuela, sitting on idling tankers off the coast of China and Malaysia that could provide an additional supply cushion to the world's largest importer of the commodity. So, and then, of course, here, according to Iran International, it says here Iranian oil will make up for China's loss of Venezuelan supplies, according to Reuters. Chinese independent refiners are expected to increasingly rely on Iranian heavy crude in the coming months as Venezuelan oil shipments to China stall after the United States moved to redirect Venezuelan exports, traders and analysts told Reuters. Venezuelan crude flows to China are expected to shrink after President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that Washington and Caracas agreed to allow up to $2 billion worth of Venezuelan oil exports to flow to the United States after the U.S. capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro over the weekend. China imported about 389,000 barrels per day of Venezuelan oil in 2025, roughly 4% of its total seaborne crude imports, according to Kepler data. The shift is set to disrupt supply for China's independent refiners, known as teapots, which depend heavily on discounted sanctioned oil. China, the world's largest crude importer, is a major buyer of cut-price supplies from Iran, Russia, and Venezuela, and teapots are among the biggest consumers of those barrels. Kepler senior analyst Zhu Miu said teapots that process Venezuelan oil are expected to switch mainly to Russian and Iranian grades in March and April, adding that Iranian heavy remains the cheapest alternative, trading at discounts of about $10 a day to the Brent. Quote, the Venezuela situation hits China independent refineries the hardest as they may lose access to discounted heavy barrels, Reuters quoted Sparta Commodities analyst June Go as saying. She added that ample availability of Russian and Iranian crude means teapots are unlikely to bid aggressively for non-sanctioned oil as higher prices would undermine margins. China is widely seen as Iran's largest oil buyer, with Iranian crude continuing to reach Chinese refiners despite U.S. sanctions. Beijing opposes unilateral sanctions and says its energy trade is conducted in line with its laws and international obligations. So, yes, again, looking to Iran, looking to Russia a little more. But yeah, maybe there's an opportunity for the Canadian product as well. Clearly, it's not sanctioned oil and it doesn't sell for as low. But again, when 4% of your supply immediately gets threatened, yes, they have an opportunity to get something somewhere else. And of course, those refineries are already set to refine that oil. But whatever China is doing with Venezuelan oil, and our oil is very similar to Venezuela's, there could be a role for us there. So it's, again, when we're looking at this at first, right? It's like, oh my God, Venezuelan oil. Oh my God, what's going to happen to our oil? Maybe there is another place for it to go. Because there is some additional capacity in TMX that we could use, that we can help shore up to help China if it needed it at that time, or if it wanted it, or at a future date. It would certainly increase the case for a new pipeline, because now we would actually have an international market that would be actually saying, yes, we want more of it, which could help fuel the case. But there's this door opening. Like I said, I don't know enough about the geopolitics of all this to know whether or not this is an actual thing that could be exploited or an avenue for future agreement. But wouldn't it be very interesting if the Prime Minister could come back from that meeting, if not with firm commitments, with pledges that they are going to talk more about reducing certain tariffs, or if certain tariffs actually are reduced, even symbolically so, but that we're starting down that path. Let's say we reduce our EV tariff to 75%. We cut it by 25%, and China cuts some tariffs by 25%. So let's say the tariffs on the agricultural products from the West drop from 100 to 75%, and the 25% tariffs on seafood and pork, for example, are eliminated. Let's say, and that there's a commitment to discussing how Canada could deliver more oil and perhaps even more potash to China. Nothing to do with critical minerals, nothing to do with security agreements, just those typical things, and perhaps an increased an environment element. I would assume that there would be an environmental element there. That given that China is a big leader on renewables, maybe something having to do with that. Say he comes back with that. That would definitely throw a wrench into conservative fortunes. Now, of course, they're going to run with, I can't believe that we are running away from the United States and running to a country as terrible and awful as China. Yeah, well, China has also not threatened to invade us and making us their cherished 51st state, and hasn't, you know, the tariffs that they imposed on us this time is in response to tariffs we imposed on them in order to help out what we thought was our friend in the United States. Turns out to not be quite a friend anymore. There are lots of doors that can be opening at this time. And yeah, I am very, very interested in seeing what these two leaders will agree to. It's not going to be a full all-in thing. That would be extremely surprising, because China doesn't typically do that, not particularly on a first move. But we have been getting signals over and over again over the course of the time that this current prime minister has been prime minister with regard to China, and the relations are warming. There are certain areas where we can collaborate, certain areas where we won't, where the prime minister has been very clear when it comes to guardrails and that type of stuff. But it seems that things are prime at this particular point for some type of announcement on something that the prime minister might be able to bring home. Prime minister might actually be bringing it home. Exactly. Kit Bucky here. Cutting tariffs is a good step, but it's not an even playing field. Chinese EVs are priced below cost of production, and Canadian manufacturers can't compete. China's tariffs are purely punitive. Indeed, and that's why I'm saying it probably wouldn't be all the way, because that wouldn't go over well with our auto industry. But yeah, Does reducing the tariffs from 100 to 75% or even 50% really make a material difference? At some point, there's a tariff rate that's established that every time you increase it, it's one of the things we said about Trump, right? It's like, "Oh, it's now 50% on your steel and aluminum." Well, if you keep on doing it, it'll be 75%. It's like you're not going to do much more damage by raising it to 50 to 75%. 50% is enough to do enough damage to really hurt us. There's, the return on that additional investment and political capital on tariffs is very minimal. So there are people way smarter than I and way better at math than I who might be in a back room with a calculator, saying to where could we lower the tariffs that would be again a symbolic move. That would indeed reduce the tariffs, but still not make it entirely practical for China to fully move in, which gives China, a nation that does like to save face, a pretext to say, well, Canada reduced, so we will reduce. And that will create some warming relationships. And I'm sure that China is also not adverse to wanting to stir the pot in the United States a little bit. And if we go to China and come back with some agreements that, again, sends a signal to the United States that, Canada is not as helpless as you thought it was. You thought that this move would bring us to our knees, but you closed the door and oh look, while you were closing the door to us, and while you were doing that thing in Venezuela, you happened to close the door to China as well. And when you closed both doors, well, that opened up a window at this end for Canada and China to make a couple of moves to counter what it is that you are trying to do. And in the process, a benefit for Canada is letting the United States know that we do have, if not other friends, because it would be kind of hard to actually state that Canada and China are friends. We do have other international partners who share similar interests, and the relationships between us are better than the relationship between you and them, at least, even if our relationship is far from perfect, but still better. And we're not adverse to sitting across the table and seeing where it is that we can shake hands in order to make the United States' plans a little more challenging or not as guaranteed of success as they would like them to be going into it. So stay tuned, kids and cubs. The match being played at the international poker table at which everyone's cheating suddenly got a whole lot more interesting. All right, kids and cubs, that is the end. Indeed. Also, but this is another thing that we need to worry about in Kit P&C Bio here, bringing up a good point here. If China has put plenty of spy gear into consumer infrastructure products, as we know they have over the years, and we know cars are now crazy privacy violators, including American and European, why on earth are we okay with Chinese cars? Kia reserves the right to know about your sexuality based on what it films and records in your car. Really? I didn't know that part about Kia. I believe Kia is more South Korean, though, however. Or I could be wrong. Is Kia Chinese? I thought Kia was South Korean. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know much about cars. I think he is. Yeah, I think he is South Korean. But yes, indeed, that's a reason that we might want to be cautious about having Chinese EV vehicles because there's a capacity of monitoring your comings and goings. Absolutely, that data is there. That's why I'm wondering: is there a tariff rate that we can agree to that would symbolically give China the ability to say to its people, through whatever its propaganda, however it manufactures whatever it does over there for its people, to say, "Oh, Canada, met us this part of the way, and therefore we are going to do this. Isn't it great? Aren't we wonderful as China? Working around the world, making partners and all that kind of stuff. Maybe even framing it as like this. After all that we did over the past 5 years, Canada finally came to its senses, or that type of spin." out there, but that doesn't result in actually any material change here with regard to access. There might be a number. I'm just saying it's an avenue that could be explored. Because again, with the transition that we have to do in our auto sector, I do not think that it would be in the interest of the Canadian government, and I don't think it has any designs of actually opening up that market for sales to be happening here in numbers great enough that could affect our transition if it is required by what the United States intends to do to us on auto manufacturing. So, stay tuned. This story just got a whole lot more interesting. All right, kids and cubs, that is the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. And yes, indeed, Kit Saucy, Kia South Korean. The last part may have been sarcasm. That would not surprise me because PNC Bio has an incredibly good gift for it. I often get a little smirk in the corner of my my mouth when I read the interventions. We hope that you enjoyed this because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Kids and cubs, if you share why it is our content resonates with you, of course, when you do that, that is advertising that we cannot buy. It is priceless. So thank you. Thank you. If you would like to help us, if you would like us to help you, I should say, hopefully, as I mentioned, we're working on that, get some audio podcasts back on the schedule. And when we are able to do that, that will allow you, kids and cubs, if you happen to be busy and on the go, to keep track of what's going on and with our analysis while taking on the day. And we hope to resolve that for you via our pod page. And I'm noticing that while, nope, the QR code for pod page has not been put up yet. So I'm guessing we're holding off on that until we actually get the streams back up. So I don't have the QR code for you for that, but it is podpage.com/thetruenortheagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you go there and click subscribe, when we start having things fresh off the podcast bandwidth again, it will come directly to your feed. And hopefully we will be reconnecting with our podcast audience very soon. Now, kits and cubs, if you would like to help us, one of the ways that you can do that is by surfing on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page and look at that where the QR code appears now at the bottom of the screen. Isn't that lovely? Like this, even with the groovy graphic. Yay, Mr. Grizzly. Very good work. Thank you so much. If you scan that, that will bring you to our YouTube page where you can smash with our buttons like, share, and subscribe with the full approval of Kits, Elaine, and Cassie, of course. And there you can make us happy while getting yourself a little bit of happy. Like, share, and subscribe helps us with the algorithm. And when that does, well, hey, sometimes it even helps our numbers go up. And that's a good thing. So thank you for your help with that. And if you would like to help us in other ways, we do incur some costs to bring this show to you, as we've talked about for the past few days. And if you would like to help us with that, we would be very grateful to receive some enthusiastic expressions of encouragement on your part, especially to start off the new year. So here we have a little QR code that will bring you to our coffee page. You can buy your favorite grizzly a cup of dark coffee, dark and bitter, like his soul, like he believes to claim. But we all know his soul is not dark and bitter. He's just a lovely person. Yes, he is. And you could buy your favorite beaver a cup of hot chocolate so that he can maintain his levels. The brown doesn't happen all on its own. The chocolate comes out through the pores. It's purely scientific. Every word is true, I swear. So if you would like to help me maintain my levels, that or chai tea, if you want. But anything out there to keep your favorite beaver moist. So if you would like to contribute to the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund, you scan that QR code and it brings you to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And if you drop a couple of loonies and toonies in there, Ooh, boy, that really does make our day because we receive it as a little pat on the shoulder saying, "Atta Beaver, atta Grizzly, you've done some good work today or some good work this week, this month, for whatever period your donation is there to support and keep it going. We believe in you." And that means the world to us. So if you would like to offer us a little encouragement, we would be very, very grateful to receive it. And we thank you so much for your support and generosity. Now, kids and cubs, please know that if you are not able to contribute, if you're not able to contribute financially, um, please, we want your contributions in terms of word and deed at truenortheagerbeaver.gmail.com. Send us some articles that you think we should see. Send us some guest ideas. Guest suggestions for our show. If you want to let us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly, please be gentle if it's ugly. However, we're open to constructive criticism. Just be kind. We would be very happy to receive it. And of course, if you do want to make a donation, but keep your donation Canadian, that same email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, is the one that you can use, kids and cubs, to make sure that that happens. It avoids the USC Tech Bros getting a share of your donation. That share comes to us, so you get more bang for your beaver buck. Hey, and who doesn't love more beaver? I'm just saying. So there you go. We are grateful for your help. Thank you so much. Of course, on YouTube, we have our super chats and our memberships if you are there. And we are grateful for you also supporting us financially through that way. Again, fully independent. So, it's going to be an interesting adventure this year. But we know that we have your support and that you have our backs. And we are very grateful for it. And we thank you in advance for everything that you will do for us over the course of this year. And we do have some props to give for a couple of donations that came in to close off 2025. And hopefully I will have an opportunity to do that on tomorrow's show. Actually, you know what? I may not have an opportunity to do that tomorrow's show because I'll be broadcasting from the Ottawa Beaver Lodge. So I will do it in our Easter egg today. All right. Let's see who else. What else do we have? Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs, we have the House of Commons petition number 6821 to encourage. Oh my, there's a big pop in signatures there to encourage our MPs to introduce legislation in the House that would make it such that our foreign media ownership laws, my mouth went a little too fast there, ensure that Canadian media is by Canadians and for Canadians and producing news that is in our interest. So if you would like to help with that, House of Commons petition E6821, please go and sign that. And we are now at 9,143 signatures. So we were stuck in the 7,000s during the holidays. And since then, we have it's picking up some speed again. And of course, Kits and Cubs, as I mentioned to you yesterday, brought to us by the attention, brought to our attention from Kit Linda, House of Commons petition E7027, I believe it is, which is a petition to the Minister of Health on behalf of concerned allies of transgender Canadians to recommend and support with Cabinet the exercise of the Government of Canada's constitutional authority, including the power of disallowance under Section 90 of the Constitution Act of 1867 to annul or repeal provincial legislation enacted in Alberta and Saskatchewan that restricts the rights of transgender and gender diverse people and that has been shielded by charter scrutiny through the use of notwithstanding clause, and to affirm the federal government's responsibility to uphold charter rights across Canada. So if you would like to sign that one too, we would be very grateful. And this one is now at 26,367 signatures. So that one is also growing quickly. And the signature period is open until February 16th. So please circulate that one. Again, the more signatures, the better. And hopefully we can get the one on media ownership to climb to these levels as well, because that is a matter of national security now. Not just informational sovereignty, but national security. All right, kids and cubs, it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourselves. And now, for the first time on our new platform, I am going to see whether or not I can stick the landing, kits and cups. So at the count of three, this is new for both of us. If you can say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. 1, 2, 3. I hear you. I hear you. And let's see if it works. I'm seeing a little note here on this, so fingers crossed. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, here we are. A little bit of audience appreciation for your wonderful support for us. The first person we have to thank is Kit Wendy, who sent us a little something right before the new year, saying, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, gents. All the best. Keep up the great work. Thank you for doing what you do and keeping Canada informed. Cheers. Thank you so much, Kit Wendy, not only for this donation, but for the multiple ones you sent over the course of the year. Recurring support from people who follow us really sustains us, and we are very grateful for your contribution. And also, a belated thank you to Kit Carolyn, who gave us a little something just after Christmas with no note, however, just a donation. And so we would like to thank you so much for having taken the time and thought enough of us that we would be deserving. We know that times are tight economically, and therefore we definitely want to express our full gratitude that you would deem us worthy of parting with some of your hard-earned money. So thank you so much for that, kids and cubs. Again, we would be nothing without you, and we are just so grateful. One little note here I wanted to mention, because if you see on the screen here, it says True North True Eager at B Sky Social, and under there, Slim and Trim, is because we have a little announcement. As you know, kids and cubs, yours truly has been trying to lose some weight, and it's been a little bit of an up and down struggle. But this morning, I stepped on the scale, and I clocked in at exactly 160 pounds. I started off at 178, and I've been sort of yo-yoing around, hitting a low thing and then bouncing back up and lowing. But this is the lowest weight I have been in a quite significant amount of time. I would say maybe at about a year and a half, close to 2 years. Let's say a year and a half, because tennis season hasn't started yet. So very happy about that. I was hoping to be able to get under 160 before I go on vacation. That may be the case, and would love, if I could, to be closer to 150 by the time the tennis season starts. And given that we are at early January and tennis season doesn't start until somewhat in April, that actually is an attainable goal at a healthy rate. So fingers crossed that the trend continues. I am feeling much better. I'm sure that this is doing better, also helping with my cholesterol numbers, because as you know, last time I went to go see my physician, was the first time ever that it had indicated that I had a slightly high cholesterol that I might want to deal with. So I have been making some better choices, because I would rather do it through diet and exercise and lifestyle choices than pumping more chemicals into my body. So that's a choice I have made. And so far, my discipline is being rewarded. So patting myself on the shoulder, yay! Celebrating my success, sharing my joy with you, and who knows? Maybe in a couple of days or weeks, I might actually be able to report that I've broken past the 160 barrier. But to be under the 165, and by that much, is something I've been trying to do for the better part of a year and a half, and I sort of get around 167 or so, and then I sort of bounce back up. So this yay is a very very good news for me, and it's nice to see my efforts and my discipline rewarded. And yes, get saucy. Sugar season has ended, so I'll go back to my spring pants. That's how I gauge things. I have been very disciplined. I received more than one gift of turtles over the course of the holidays, and we are now January 8th, and I have only finished one of the three beginning to end. Normally, I can go through one if I do not control myself in about an hour and a half. So the fact that I have just opened the second box, and we are let's see, 6 plus 14, 2 weeks after I got the first one, is an incredible achievement, actually almost miraculous, because uh, I have a little bit of a sweet tooth. So sweet tooth. So there you go. So your support and encouragement, of course, means the world to me. Thank you so much. I'm going to say amour et bisous, and we will see you tomorrow from the Ottawa Beaver Lodge, where the boss, Alistair McBear, will performing yet another performance evaluation. So I need to be on my best behavior. All right, I'm off for the day. Amour et bisous, and see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.